Yes. Welcome back to another edition of Go Long Live with Barry Long 2. I am Barry Long II, not the first, not the third. And we also have Sage Alvarez, my man, is going to be joining us live here shortly. We are live on today'scalifornia.com. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are also live on today'scanada.com. Now, I've been a little under the weather the last couple days, so that's why my voice is a little hoarse. But hey, we're powering through, baby. The show must go on, as they say in show business. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you go and like the post. Make sure you go and subscribe and follow CoachellaValley.com, today'scalifornia.com. We're live all over Twitter as well. And we got today coming up on the show, we're going to talk to Mo Murphy. He is the vice president of the Off the Ball Network. Y'all remember Mo from last week, talking college football, talking Dallas Cowboys. Mo has a lot of great takes, especially about college football. So I can't wait to dive into some of the games that we saw this weekend. It was an exciting weekend of college football. Also, we're going to talk about that game last night, the Raiders versus the Chargers. Now, we saw the Raiders face some deficits early on in the season. And the third time they tried to claw their way back. But we'll get into that game later on. The Chargers look really, really good. We've got AL wildcard matchup going on today. The Red Sox versus the Yankees. Two of the most historic franchises in Major League Baseball history. One of the best rivalries. Get a lot of good stuff to come out of that game. We're going to talk about that later on as well. So, without any further ado, let me have my man, Mo Murphy. Mo Murphy, how you doing, bro?
Hey, what's going on, bro? Another day. Obviously, you putting on another wonderful show, bro. Wasn't able to make it yesterday on which I watched it. I was able to watch it for Mo Murphy Mondays, but had a doctor's appointment, but was able to come on today. So I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, we made it Mo Murphy Tuesdays. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But yeah, we are going to have a weekly segment with Mo Murphy called Mo Murphy Mondays. Because a lot of people, man, we got a lot of good responses from the time you came on. Now, let's just jump right into what we saw going on this past weekend in college football. So you were very, 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 very sure and confident that if Alabama did have a challenge, it would be against Ole Miss. And we saw what they were able to do. Ole Miss was able to put up on them last year. And Nick Saban, he didn't look like he was going to let that happen again this season. We just saw Alabama stomp Ole Miss. What are your thoughts on that game?
Hey, man, when you're wrong, and you got to wear that on your sleeve. I was wrong.
I'm wrong all the time.
Yeah, and I thought, and it wasn't. See, when people heard me say that, they were taking it as me saying Ole Miss is going to beat Alabama. I was just saying if there was a team who has the recipe, it was Ole Miss. I made sure to say I'm not calling upset. And their offense, it looked the worst it's looked. And I don't know if it was all about necessarily. What happens is when you go for it on fourth down on multiple times, football is a game where a score could be one or two plays could change the total outcome of a whole game. And it really could be. So going for it on fourth down on multiple times was not a bad call, but it never broke their way. They never were able to complete one of those fourth downs. So that makes a difference. And I mean, that it made a huge difference because Alabama capitalized off of every mistake that Ole Miss made. And I did say that would be the problem with Ole Miss. I felt like they could go toe for toe with points, but I don't know if their defense can make a stop, which is why I didn't know if they would win. But if with Alabama making every stop that they needed to and capitalizing off of it, that's what made it so bad with Ole Miss. And because unfortunately for them, they are not great defensively. So if there's a team who can go point for point with them, that other team is going to have to be pretty much equally as bad on the defensive end for Ole Miss to end up winning the game.
Absolutely. And we saw Alabama roll. And it looks like there's nobody else out there that can beat it besides maybe Georgia. But we saw some other undefeated teams fall. I was really high on Notre Dame. Notre Dame fell. Your thoughts on that?
It was only a matter of time. I think that game, to me, that game is my focus on that game was for the people that don't think there should be a 12-team playoff. That game, and there's a game coming up this week that screams to me why there should be a 12-team playoff, whether people want it or 8 teams or whatever, more than 4, because now essentially Notre Dame is done. Like one loss and their season is over. Like they probably have no shot. It's going to take the craziest of crazy things to happen for Notre Dame to get to the playoffs. But to tell me that you don't think they're still like a top 10 team, a top 12 team, because they lost to another top 10 team, I think is a little crazy. And then Cincinnati, even
Oof.
still, like with Cincinnati winning that game, that still doesn't guarantee them a playoff spot. And they could finish undefeated. There is a world that exists where Cincinnati could finish undefeated and still not get into the playoffs because they're a group of 5 team. And so that matchup right there, if Notre Dame had won that game, they guarantee themselves, to me, a playoff spot. But since Cincinnati won it, now that group of 5 is not guaranteed in. I think that game, and then there's another game coming up, which I sure will be about to get into, is the reason why there should be a 12-team playoff, because one game, this is why college football is the way it is, and this is why we love it. One loss can ruin your whole season.
One loss can. And you're right about Notre Dame. They creep up to that ninth spot. But if you're not starting off in the top 10, when the season begins and you have a loss, it looks tough for you. Now, which game were you talking about we about to get into? Which game were you referring to?
Penn State and Iowa. That is the number 3 versus number 4. And it's an elimination game.
Isn't it good having all these ranked matchups early on in the season instead of these tune-up games?
It's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Alabama State, A&T.
It has been amazing at that point. But here's the thing. This is an elimination game. This Penn State versus Iowa is a playoff game this week. For people that don't realize it, like the loser of this game is now in the doghouse of having a chance to make the playoffs, and more than likely they don't. Iowa has more of a shot than Penn State if Penn State loses, because Penn State also has to run into Ohio State. If I'm not mistaken, they still got to play Michigan, and they still got to play Michigan State. So they don't have they don't have a bunch of guaranteed victories on their side. And Iowa, if they lose, they'll have one loss, but they won't have to see either a Penn State again or a Michigan or Ohio State. They don't have to see them until the Big Ten championship. But this is essentially an elimination game. But if we had more than 4 teams in the playoffs, this could be like could we see this matchup later on? And I know it's professional sports, but literally every other sport in the world has more than 4 teams competing for a championship at the end of the year. And everybody's like, well, the number 12 team can't hang with the number 1 team. For the most part, I always agree with that. But, I mean, let's just shorten it in the NFL then, because the number 1 seed, Kansas City Chiefs, I know they're all professionals, but the number 7 seed, whoever, Miami Dolphins have no shot. Like, it's essentially the same thing. So I think college football got to open it to 12 so that games like this not only matter during the regular season, but could matter and have huge implications later on, not just matter in that moment. If Penn State loses, their season might be over. Like, there comes to a point where you have to win every game. You must win. And if they lose one more, it's done. They lose to Ohio State and their season is completely over playing 2 top 10 teams. That's why I think, I think the system got to be tougher, but I think you got to have 12 playoff teams. I think that's the only way to solve this problem.
You make a great point, because all sports have more than 4 teams in the playoffs, and baseball even had to expand and and create a wild card. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. But they used to do 4 teams, and it didn't feel fair. This is Mo Murphy. He is the vice president of the Off the Ball Network. He's joining us live here on Go Long Live with Barry Long 2 and Sage Alvarez. There's my man Sage. What's going on, Sage?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
We're doing well, man. We're doing well. You guys can check us out on CoachellaValley.com. We're on today'scalifornia.com, today'scanada.com. We're all over Twitter. If you want to comment, we can post your comments. Just like Joseph Christian, he says, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, praise God." My man must be.
It's feeling it.
Yeah, he must have just got out of church.
Hey, I just got done playing. The 12-team playoff. I'm excited just like him. Hallelujah on that, bro.
Me too. Look, it's going to take us a while to get to 12, in my opinion. I think they're going to go to 6, and then maybe 8, and then maybe 12. But I eventually want to see a situation and a scenario where
the super conference might force their hand. The super conference are already being aligned. I mean, it might have to go to 12 at this point just to keep it fair, because at this point, are we just going to see the SEC and maybe a couple Pac-12 schools in? Or I mean, it's getting kind of ridiculous with the alignment. But money talks, and money is what's happening. That's why Texas and Oklahoma, they had to do their thing, and the money train ain't slowing down. I
kind of feel like I want to see a scenario like where in college basketball, where at the end of the season they have the tournament. Now I know it's one and done tournament, but everybody has a chance. At least if you win your conference, you get an automatic bid and you have a chance to win the national championship. I feel like 64 teams would be way too much, for NFL for
Yeah.
the NCAA
It's too
football.
much. It's too much.
But they should expand it to make it better. What do you think about the exact expansion, Mo Murphy?
I agree exactly with what you said. And here's my thing. How should I not have a chance to compete for a national championship when I win my conference? That to me is an argument for expansion. My first argument was 6. And I had the 5 Power 5 conference champions and 1 at-large bid. Now, it could be whether you want to go with Cincinnati or you want to go with the best Power 5 school left, whether it's another SEC team or whatever. But I feel like the Pac-12, a Pac-12 winner not having a shot. The last team in the Pac-12 to make it was Stanford. If I'm not or Stanford almost made it. It was Oregon. Oregon was the last Pac-12 team to compete. You're telling me they really have no shot. The Big Ten at least has had multiple teams where they had Ohio State compete in the playoffs, and Michigan State made it one year. The SEC has had multiple teams. The Big 12 has only had Oklahoma. The ACC has had Clemson. And then they had Florida State the first year. But other than that, it's been Clemson. So you're telling me that really outside of the SEC, only certain schools have an opportunity to compete for a national championship. So you're telling guys that winning the Pac-12 isn't good enough. That's not good enough to win the national championship. And so to me, that's kind of crazy because you hold the value and then everybody gets so caught up in SEC football. I love the South. I'm from Florida. I love Southern football. That's where you get your speedsters and all that. Understand it. But you have to respect the brand of football. You can't say the West Coast is bad because you like Southern football. You can't say the Midwest is bad because you like Southern football. But that's what people do. But then if we break it down, like the Midwest produced the best offensive linemen in the NFL. The West Coast produced the best quarterbacks in the NFL overall, and even everybody's starting to recruit the quarterbacks. And then the South is where you get your speed and your skill position. That's how you make up the NFL. So to say like you don't like the trenches, so you don't watch Big Ten football. You don't like the West Coast offense, so you don't watch Oregon or anybody in the Pac-12. It's just not fair to label it that Oregon isn't Alabama. We understand that, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't have an opportunity to play for a national championship if they win their conference.
Absolutely. This is Mo Murphy. He is the vice president of Off the Ball Network. He's joining us live here on Go Long Live with Barry Long 2 and Sage Alvarez. Now, you're an Ohio State fan. All right. And we saw an Ohio State man make some bad decisions, some bad choices this past weekend. Urban Meyer, after he goes 0-4 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He does not fly back to Florida with the team. Instead, he goes to his restaurant in Columbus. He's approached by some young ladies who want to take photos. They want to twerk on him. They wanted to get, and he allowed the twerking to happen. I don't care what you said. We got a picture right here. That's Urban Meyer. We know that's you, Urban. That's not Urban Meyer. I said this yesterday on Robert Peterson's show. That's Bourbon Meyer because he's clearly drunk. But this picture right here is a really bad look because his hands are underneath her bottom, and it just looks like, man, what the heck are you doing, Urban Meyer? What are your thoughts about this whole situation, his apology, and how long will he last in Jacksonville, Mo Murphy?
Maybe he lasts to the end of the season. Maybe. I mean, from what we're seeing, like it's not what I would do. It's what we're seeing. Like the reports are right there. Nobody's happy with him in Jacksonville. Like he was in some fire prior to the season anyway with hiring the strength and conditioning coach who had said some racist things back at college. Urban Meyer vouched for him. That was the thing. Like it's kind of been drama around Jacksonville, and it's never a good thing when there's drama around bad teams like this. Like when is that ever a good situation? And all of it has involved Urban Meyer, bringing Tim Tebow and giving him a shot when he hasn't played football in like 7 years. Was in minor leagues. Like that was a problem. So it's been a lot of things, and then this like. He didn't step out on his wife essentially, but that's like you have to answer to that as a man. You have to go back to your wife. No, I can't imagine a man in a happy relationship whose woman would be okay with that. That's my only thing is you put yourself in a predicament that you can't and you can't explain it. But you can't explain that.
Hey, but that's the way the athletes and coaches have it nowadays. To be real with y'all, like just what I see them, how they navigate. And I was in Old Town Scottsdale for a long time, so I know how they move. I know about the NDAs they be giving these girls when they're married and thinking that they're not gonna get away with it, bro. People talk, and the thing about this is we're in the phone era, fellas. Like Everything is gonna get shown on your phone. Everyone's got cameras now. They might used to have a flip phone. You just only had a flip phone with no camera back in the day. They have cameras in the highest of high qualities now. Android, iPhone taking over the game, where everything's gonna get shown. They go live at the bar and show. They could have went live. It could have been crazier, on social media if they'd done that.
Yeah, back in the day, man, in the 80s and 90s, you had traditional paparazzi. That's the only way celebrities got caught, doing stuff like this. But nowadays, we're all paparazzi. I'm TMZ. Everybody's TMZ. You're TMZ. Yeah. So, yeah, you make a great point by that, man. But, so real quick, Murphy, before we get you off here, I want to ask your thoughts about the Raiders-Chargers game last night. And you're a college guy, so you know all about Justin Herbert and what he was able to do up in Oregon. And are you surprised by what we're seeing about this kid?
Yes, 100%. I'm surprised. Like, I'm going to be honest, 100%. Like, I didn't think he was – I watched him a lot in college. No, but it's not a knock on him. Like, I watched him in college a lot, especially I love quarterbacks. So when you're telling me this is the next greatest thing, I'm watching. He didn't impress me like Deshaun Watson impressed me in college. He didn't impress me like Tua impressed me. Right. I got to see him. The first game where I really paid attention to him as a draft prospect was the year when they played Oregon. And Bo Nix, it was Bo Nix's freshman year. It was Herbert's last year trying to go to the NFL. That matchup was supposed to be like the new freshman phenom versus the guy who could be a top pick. And you watched him and you're like, that's not a top pick in the NFL. I'm sorry. And that was the same year you saw, Joe Burrow, and boom, like look at how Joe Burrow ended up. So that was my only thing was with him. And I watched Tua and I'm like, yeah, Tua is a benefit of his weapons, of course, but isn't that what all great college quarterbacks are? Like, pretty much all great college quarterbacks have great weapons for the most part. So it's tough to they got all their weapons. They're not going to have that in the NFL. That's the truth. And come the NFL is where you really find out. And he got dropped off in a great situation also. The Chargers, they end up getting these picks because they get hurt. They don't get these picks because they have a bad roster. You threw him in there at his rookie year. And what do you have? Melvin Gordon at running back. He had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams at wide receiver with Hunter Henry at tight end. Like in a and Eckler and an okay offensive line. I'll give them they were okay. But you got tossed in a really great situation. Derwin James over there at safety, like a good defense. He's a bad Ingram. He's a bad man. And they had Melvin Ingram at the time at defensive end. Like, he got thrown into a really good situation. It was just they were injured. That's why they were bad. Once again, they were able to get Rashawn Slater because of injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they weren't able to capitalize on games late. But I am surprised that he's this great. Like, this man is on his way to be great. Like, he is assumed to be world. He's assumed to be future, for as far as we can project in his career, top 5 quarterback. Like, he's going to be in that conversation with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. If he ever is able to come back, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, those are your future. That's your 5, Kyler Murray. That's your future top 5 to 7 quarterbacks that are going to be battling it out for placement on the top as the number 1 quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years, based on projection and how long quarterbacks' careers last. Those are the names. And Justin Herbert is right in the middle of all of them, deserving a case against each and every one of those guys, especially when you're talking about projections in the future.
So one last thing, because you mentioned Kyler Murray, and he's 4-0 right now. And Kyler Murray is he's looking fantastic. What are your thoughts about the Cardinals? And do you think Kyler Murray has a chance to sustain this good high level of play?
I don't see why not. Because he's not fully dependent on his legs. I think his mobility, he will kill you with his legs. He absolutely will. But he's what we want Lamar Jackson to be, essentially. I was
about to bring that up.
He's what we want Lamar Jackson to be. Point. He may not be may not be as fast. And it's no diss to Lamar, but Lamar would be amazing if he could throw the ball like Kyler Murray. Lamar would probably be he'd be the best quarterback we've ever seen as far as being dynamic. That's just what I think. But we knock him on throwing the ball. Nobody can move like Lamar, especially right now.
Do you think Lamar just doesn't have the weapons? Because Kyler has weapons. To be honest, the receivers are a lot better. The receivers are a lot better, and Bateman's not there yet.
100%. I definitely agree that I've made that point with Lamar. Is we knock Lamar, but sometimes Stop looking at everybody like Tom Brady, because that's what people do. Well, Tom Brady did it without the weapons. He doesn't need weapons. We're talking about GOATs here. When you talk, and Peyton Manning had weapons. Tom Brady did have weapons every once in a while. He had Randy Moss at one point. He did have Julian Edelman. But stop comparing guys to the greatest players of all time and telling me what Drew Brees and what Tom Brady did, and then label that with Lamar Jackson. Guys need help. That's okay. That doesn't make him a bad quarterback. But he doesn't have the weapons. And then, but this offseason kind of made me think, how does the rest of the league look at Lamar Jackson? Because Juju didn't go there. Like, the best they got was Sammy Watkins. They had opportunities for other guys to go there, and the interest wasn't there. Julio didn't really want to be traded to Baltimore, and that we thought that would have been a great spot. Oh, my God, if Lamar gets Julio, like, that would have been perfect for both of them, because Julio would have been the number one wide receiver. We know that, and Lamar would have a number one weapon. But with Kyler Murray, he can be in the pocket and be productive. Kyler Murray can sit in the pocket, make every throw that I need him to make, and he can do it at a rate where if he doesn't escape, he still will have one of the top performances on any given Sunday afternoon. I'm not sure I can say the same thing about Lamar Jackson. If I told him, hey, you only can be in the pocket, how effective is Lamar Jackson going to be? Where if I say, hey, Kyler Murray, there's no escaping out of the pocket. You got to bounce. You got to do what you can do and play a Mac Jones style of game. I think Kyler Murray still could have the top performance on any given Sunday afternoon. I can't say the same thing about Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson is also getting better every week, every day. We see it. So I think when Bateman comes back and he gets that full plethora of weapons, Mark Andrews gets fully healthy. He has Hollywood Brown still. Sammy Watkins has been playing banged up. I think when he gets that, you'll see a lot better Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson playing well right now.
And next year getting Dobbins back is going to be huge, because the reports, even from Captain Defense on our earlier show, he was telling Barry that was the guy. Like, he was ready for a takeoff year, and
he was going to play a huge role.
Camp. He saw it in camp.
Yeah, and he was going to play that huge role with the run pass option, because that's what they do. Their offense. Lamar Jackson will run his offense perfectly in an Ohio State style offense, because we run that same thing. Really, just run pass option, a lot of short cross routes. That's how Ohio State does it. And that's how the mobile guys like Justin Fields and JT Barrett were successful. Then that's how, we even did it with Dwayne Haskins, who couldn't really move to save his life, still was able to make some plays, but his arm talent was tremendous. But if he runs that style of offense, I think they need to open it up a little bit more. I think Harbaugh's limiting Lamar Jackson a little bit right now, because everything is so dependent on his legs. And it's like, you're looking to pay this guy. And this man going to end up demanding, like, on his resume right now, he does have an MVP. He has multiple playoff appearances. Like, yeah, he hasn't got to AFC Championship with them, but, like, you got to let him loose and see what Lamar Jackson really is before you decide whether you pass on him and somebody gets him and takes his game to the next level, or you pay him $40 million and never get the most out of him because you don't let him you keep him on the leash. You got to let him loose. When you're looking, a guy's on a contract year and you looking to pay him $40 million, you got to let him loose.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's Mo Murphy, the vice president of Off the Ball Network, man. We can talk to you all day long. Thank you so much for joining us, my man. We'll talk soon, brother.
Thank you so much, Mo.
Appreciate y'all for having me on, bro.
He has some great insider stuff today, man. He's always bringing the fire, bro.
Oh man, he brings that.
He's always bringing the fire.
All right,
it's like I can't even argue with him. I'm like almost turned into a fan on the show.
Yeah. So we are Go Long Live. This is Barry Long II and Sage Alvarez. Now, we're gonna have Mo Murphy on every Monday. Mo Murphy Mondays. We're gonna have y'all hashtag Mo Murphy Mondays. We'll set it up for Monday. But let's talk about this Raiders-Chargers game for the little bit of time we have left, and then at the end we'll quickly go over this matchup between the Sox and the Yankees. So the Raiders and Chargers, man, the Raiders were down 21-0, Sage, and I felt bad for you as I'm watching the game in Agua Caliente with U92 and Brad. Shout out to Bradley Ryan. What I was thinking of, when you guys started coming back, you couldn't get a first down to save your life in the first part of the game, in the first half of that game. And it really was a tale of two halves, because the Raiders came back and erased a 14-point deficit, which they've done twice this year, to come back and win games. Now, I thought 21 was too big of a deficit to come back from, but I mean, you guys started making a push at the end of the game, and ultimately just didn't have enough. And Justin Herbert was fantastic, 25 and 38 for 222 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Austin Eckler, we saw all his strength, his one-arm push-ups and pull-ups and stuff. He rushed the ball 15 times for 117 yards, and then had another 50 on top of that receiving. this team looks legit. The Chargers. What are your takeaways from this game?
Oh,
and
man.
are you happy? Let me ask you this: are you happy as a Raider fan? Are you happy that you guys were able to come back from the deficit at least and make it close, or are you more upset that you guys keep getting yourselves put in these positions?
I'm gonna ask you a question first. Have you ever been happy with the loss?
Hell no.
And that's the way it should always be. And we sometimes take moral victories,
Yeah.
And I'm not taking no moral victory with the comeback.
Okay.
It starts with play calling. It starts with Gruden. Gruden's got to take a huge fall for that loss yesterday. We're looking at the play calling. We're looking at the design plays that they had. We're looking at Derek Carr missing a couple key opportunities. Josh Jacobs being inches short from that first down that really played a huge momentum in them having to take another punt. I mean, this game was lost in the first half. They gave Chargers as many chances as possible. This Raider defense, for the most part, did actually a good job. I thought they did okay, but you don't expect much from the defense. You expect them to do okay. You guys expect the offense to do great. They gotta do great because that's what they are. They're not a team that could just. They're not gonna rely on their defense. They're not Mac Jones. They're not.
Yeah, and with the injuries that you guys have in the secondary, you were down to your third string cornerback. You had
hurt.
Nate Robertson. I said, is that Nate Robinson? he got back in the league. No, that's Nate Robertson. And then you got Hobbs on the other side. You guys are a little banged up in the secondary, but I mean, was that more Justin Herbert being good, or was that more the defense letting him be good?
It's chess over checkers, Barry. It's nothing new in the NFL. If you're down, your right tackle, you're on your third string. I'm making sure I'm sending the house on that right tackle because he's a third stringer, and that's what happens in the parts of the Raiders line. Is there's that one where the Derek Carr fumbles it, he gets hit. But if he gets half a block even on that really play, he gets that throw off. That's a first down instead of a fumble and a punt. There's just it comes down to little things, and the Raiders didn't take care of little things, and to come back was cool. Showed heart. I think it also was a mix of Chargers play call and playing too conservative because we're seeing too much conservativeness when it comes to play calling. Ask the Niners, who lost the Packer game. What happens when you get conservative when you're trying to – it's like just call the same defense. You've been playing all game. You've been playing all game perfect, and you guys blew that within 33 seconds and gave A-Rod the win. Same thing with the Raiders. Raiders had plenty of chances to win this game. They just didn't want it because you got to take care of the little things. You don't take care of the little things, don't ask for a W, and don't ask for to be morally happy that we came back in the second half. Like, I'm still upset with the first half. Are you not upset?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. The Raiders, I think they're still going to be, one of the top teams when it's all said and done. I think that the resolve that you guys have been showing with these comebacks are a moral victory if there are moral victories, Sage. I know you don't like moral victories, but the
only moral victory I had was when I brought an AAU team when I had the lineup was like 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and I think I had like a 6'1" center or 6 foot center. And then I had to go against starting point guard 6 foot, shooting guard 6'2", small forward 6'5", center 6'5", and a 6'6" center. And I look at my team, I'm like, hey, we gotta get a bucket at least. We can't get skunked like that. Maybe that was a moral victory that game, Barry. But like I promise you, I don't have many moral victories when it comes to any sports. It's about winning, win or loss, or you get fired.
Did you say
jobs on the line?
Did you say your point guard their point guard was as tall as your center?
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God.
And that was a 7th grade team. That was a 7th grade. That was Long Beach 76ers for a lot of people. I watch a lot of AUTs, the Gym Rats.
Yeah,
you
shout to that.
Got Mirage. Out here.
So real
Desert
quick,
Elite with Justin with Palm Desert. They're doing a great job over there. There's a lot of action going on in the Valley.
A lot of action going around in the Valley. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are also on today'scalifornia.com. We are also on today'scanada.com. We're all over Twitter. Make sure you guys comment. We'll hit you back. If you're watching the replay, make sure you comment, subscribe, like. Real quick, we got our first wild card matchup of this season coming. And this is what Major League Baseball wanted. They had 4 teams originally in when I was a child, and then eventually they expanded to the wild card. You get this one wild card game. It's not really fair for a team like the Dodgers because the Dodgers won 106 games. The best wild card team we've ever seen in the history of Major League Baseball, but it's the way it is. And
you know who it's fair for though, Barry? It's fair for the fans that said, I want baseball to be more exciting. And we got it delivered. And I know the Dodgers are upset. I'm a Dodger fan, and I'm pretty upset that we're in this game. But that's what happens when you design a system where you're trying to get out that 80 win team, and now you're stuck pinning 100+ win team and a one. Pretty much, it's a one match and go home.
Yeah,
and I love that for baseball because I don't know if you've been to an elimination game, Barry. I was there when the Mets eliminated the Dodgers. I was there. I was emotional. I don't know what. Honestly, I had never been part of an elimination game before. So I go to the parking lot, tears are going down people's eyes. And just you're around these, and you just almost want to cry yourself because you're just so, everything's emotional because people love baseball. Baseball is just that sport. And we're going to see some great baseball this week with the Red Sox, Yankees, and the Dodgers. And
baseball really is a great sport. It teaches you a lot in life. If you bat. That's what I tell people all the time. You bat 300, you're an all-star in the major leagues. You bat 200, you're in the minor leagues. You might not even be in AA. You bat 500, you're the greatest baseball player of all time. But that means that if you bat 500, you're only getting on base 5 out of 10 times. If you bat 400, you're a Hall of Famer. You get on base 4 out of 10 times, which means you fail 6 times. So baseball teaches you how to fail and keep going. But yeah, real quick tonight we got no JD Martinez. For the Red Sox, they still got Kyle Schwarber. They went out and got Verdugo from the Yankees. From the Dodgers, Kike Hernandez.
I miss Verdugo. I mean, we had to get bets at any cost, but
we had to get him.
Verdugo has been he's been that guy since the Tucson days. You could talk to people from Arizona, the AAU circuit, and they rave about Verdugo back in Tucson. He was pitching, hitting home runs. It was the man.
I was hurt when the Dodgers let him go, but when you bring in Mookie Betts, that's a hell of a
you got to do it. You got to do it, and it hurt. And I was like, man, I wanted Verdugo. I was ready to just keep repping a Verdugo jersey the rest of my life, the rest of the next 10, 15 years, and we're gonna be repping Mookie. So not a bad substitute for sure. But I'm a big Verdugo fan.
So the Red Sox put out Eovaldi on the mound, and the Yankees are gonna go with Garrett Cole. The Yankees lineup, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit more efficient tonight because they got bigger bats. Simply.
So what's the score? What do you have the score?
I'm gonna go not a high scoring game. I'm gonna go 6-4 Yankees.
I'm gonna go 4-3 Red Sox, and Verdugo hits a base hit walk off.
There you go. All right, everyone. Make sure you enjoy. Go check out the Wild Card Baseball. Even if you haven't watched a baseball game all season long, please go check it out. It is going to
Game 7. What a time to start. And I told someone the other day, I'm like, there's just a lot of just these casual fans that are just gonna watch the playoffs, right? What better moment to start off with a Game 7?
Absolutely, yeah. Win or go home. And yeah, we see the playoff matchups between the Yankees and Red Sox have a lot of drama with the Roger Clemens and remember Pedro Martinez throwing Don Zimmer on the ground. And it was an old man. You can't treat an old man like Pedro did that. But this is how intense this rivalry is. So it should be a very, very great game. I'm excited to watch it. Make sure you go turn it on today. It's going to be on at 8 o'clock Pacific or 8 o'clock Eastern, so 5 o'clock our time. And we will be on tomorrow. We're on every single day, Monday through Friday, at noon 12:30 Pacific time. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, for commenting. And Sage, let them know where they can find you at, boss.
Hey, y'all can find me at Twitter at @sage_up. And you can find me on Instagram at @sage_up. And you can also find me on Facebook at Sage Alvarez. All I do is a friend.
Absolutely. And you can find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long. And I am also on Facebook at Barry Long _II or on Instagram at Barry Long _2. Yeah, man, we're doing it. We're doing it every day. So great show today, Sage. And
man, thank you for Mo. Thank you for Mo to come on. And the dude's a stud.
Thank you, Mo.
We're lucky to have him on while he's here before, we got to start paying these ESPN Yahoo fees, what I'm saying? And the Fox fees, I understand. And And we're just grateful to have him on each time while he's still here with us. Because that dude's going to Hollywood soon on us, bro. But he's a real person. He's gonna be a real one in Hollywood for sure.
Absolutely. All right, we thank you for your time, and we will be back tomorrow. Remember, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, you are capable of doing anything. So go out and do it. Whatever you thought you couldn't do, go do it today. All right, we'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been another episode of Go Long Live with Barry Long 2 and Sage Alvarez. Holla.